Om Namo Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Wanted to seek the blessing of Radha Madhav, Radha Shyam Sundar Krishna Balaram, Bal Gopal, Singadev Bhagwan, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Gaur Nitai, Srila Tusimani, Haridas Thakur, Guru Parampara, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, and the assembled devotees. So, continuing on with the 10th canto, glorious 10th canto, chapter 11. So, we just looked at chapters 9 and 10, which discussed quite a lot about Lord Damodar, Krishna, pastimes where he was bound by the ropes of his mother's love. So continuing on, this chapter concludes the Damodar pastimes and how the inhabitants of Gokul left Gokul and went to Vrindavan, and how Krishna killed Vatsasura and Bakasura. Oh, those... Okay, I think those 6 pastime. Okay, well, let's go through it. So these first 6 verses, we can go through in a little detail because this Damodar Leela is just the most extraordinary Leela. Let me just see if I can find it. Yeah. 1 second. Ah, good. Sorry, just computer's a little slow today. So, where are we? Just 1 second. Okay, so text 6 of number 11. So this summarizes quite a bit. When Nand Maharaj saw his own son bound with ropes to the wooden mortar and dragging it, he smiled and released Krishna from his bonds. So this is now, we're looking at the conclusion of the pastimes. In a little more detail, further detail comes from the Acharyas. Meanwhile, they worked out that the mortar was the cause of the toppling of the trees. So the Gopas were wondering, how did these trees fall? And they worked it out. The mortar, tiny little mortar, was the cause. They were perplexed, especially as Krishna was still tied to the mortar. They said to each other, Krishna could have been crushed and killed. No doubt, Lord Narayan has protected him once again. So they have some inclination that Krishna is supernatural. Maybe he's even the Supreme Lord. But they tend to actually think that Narayan or Vishnu is the Supreme and he's always protecting Krishna. Nanda Baba was contemplating how these 2 powerful trees snapped at their base like twigs. His brother, Nandana, suggested as the children were with Krishna all along, they may know what happened. The Brajbasis looked at the children, who were just as perplexed as the adults. But unlike the adults, the boys were not bewildered by the mystery of who felled the trees, but by the sweetness of Damodar. They knew that he did remarkable things. So they spoke up. It was Krishna. He did it. And they shared the pastime. Krishna was dragging the mortar between the 2 trees, which then crashed to the ground. And the demigods came out of the trees. They prayed to Krishna, and then they left, flying off to heaven. I mean, who's going to believe that? Right? The men would not believe the children. But at least it was some kind of explanation. After his friend's disclosure of the truth of events, Krishna was a little concerned that the men may give thought to his superhuman powers and show reverence towards him. So it is part of the plan. He doesn't want the Brijbasis or the Gopas or the Gopis to think of him as God, because then that would introduce a certain formality in their relationship. And Krishna doesn't want that formality. He wants them to treat him as one of their own. To offset such a possibility, Krishna applied his talents to childhood play tugging at the mortar, making grunting sounds, showing irritation and not being able to easily move it. Observing Krishna's activities, the men said to each other, "What fertile imagination these boys have! What stories will they not make up to glorify their friend?" Nand Baba moved closer to his son. This was his first entrance into the Leela. Krishna was a little reserved, fearing further punishment. Nand Baba's first concern was for his son's well-being. Seeing the boy playing with his new toy, the mortar, Nand Baba inferred that Krishna was unhurt. Affectionately running his hands over Krishna's every limb, he confirmed that his son was unscathed. When Krishna moved the mortar a little, his chest swelled with pride at his extraordinary son. Although he had no doubts about the extent of his wife's love for their son, Nand Baba was surprised at the punishment that his wife had imposed on Krishna. Firstly, binding him, then leaving him alone, without thinking of the dangerous consequences. That was negligence. However, more than anyone else, he understood and revered Yashoda Mai as the perfect mother. In their parenting, she was stricter, and he was a permissive, doting father. To encourage Krishna, Nanda Baba smiled at him and to reassure him. His father's reassuring countenance eased Krishna's mind, and he smiled widely in return. His father was not upset, even though he had been so naughty. Casting a mildly reproaching glance at his wife, Nanda Baba leaned over the mortar to untie his son. But before doing so, he looked back at Yashodamai as if to ask, "May I?" Without her permission, it cannot happen. Except for Yashodamai, no yogi, jnani, bhakta, however competent, had authority to bind the Supreme Lord to a mortar. And only one who was her equal, Nand Baba, was qualified to free Krishna from the chains. And even then, only with her permission. She's the most powerful personality in Krishna's life. Yashodamai replied with a faint but anxious smile, "Yes." With this empowerment, Nanda Baba first untied the rope binding the mortar. Then he turned to Krishna and untied the rope from Krishna's waist, repeatedly chanting, "Govinda Damoda Madhav, Govinda Damoda Madhav." With Krishna free and embracing him, smelling his hair and covering his cheeks with kisses. As the rope that bound Krishna's belly fell to the ground, it manifested its full length, which was the aggregate of all churning ropes and cow ropes in Gokul. Nand Baba was too absorbed in the ecstasy of loving his son to notice. Even if he had, he would have simply shrugged off the marvel as one of the great mystical events that followed his great son. In the spirit of a mistreated child, he started to cry. That's Krishna. And tearfully, he reached his arms towards his father. Bending low, he lifted his son and held him close to his chest, and he said, "Oh son, where is the evil-minded person who tied you to this mortar?" Krishna leaned towards his father's cheek and wrapped his arms around his neck. Speaking into his father's ear, but loud enough for others to hear, he replied, "Father, it was mother who did it." His eyes found his wife, Nand Baba's wife, Nand Baba found his wife, who was now trying to hide behind her friends. "That cannot be, son. You must be mistaken." "No, father, she did it. You can ask any of the others here. They were there too." Nand Baba turned to the other ladies, but they all lowered their faces or covered their eyes with their veils. The king was upset. that his son had been placed in jeopardy. He knew that Yashoda Mai will regret her conduct, and no words of reprimand from him will match her own self-censure. He knew the depth of her love for their son, how much pain that love must now be causing her. So he did not chastise his wife. The young boys closed around to comfort Krishna and confirm Krishna's words, Nanda Baba, and told to Nanda Baba and told him what happened, adding to what they had said before. When Krishna went between the two trees, the mortar got stuck sideways and the trees fell with a crash. The trees fell sideways and never touched Krishna, not even a leaf. Smiling as if he believed the boys, Nand Baba remained doubtful. These boys go on, the stories they dream up. Then the Brijbasis came to reassure Krishna that his ordeal was over. First came the men, then the women. They caressed Krishna, smelled his head, offered words of comfort, and they joined together in Sankirtan of Krishna's pastimes as the Brahmins recited Vedic hymns. The only ones who did not come were Yashoda Mai and her friends. Yashoda Mai stood behind the trees watching the proceedings. Too ashamed to remain, she, assisted by her friends, returned to the palace, covering her tear-stricken face with her veil. At the moment that Yashoda Mai reached the palace gates, Rohini Devi and Balaram arrived from Sahara. Yashoda Mai embraced Rohini Devi, crying uncontrollably. News of the fallen trees had already reached them. However, Rohini Devi did not expect this. Why was Yashoda Mai so distraught? She turned to Balaram and asked him to bring her his brother to the palace. She knew that Yashoda Mai's sorrow can be cured by the embrace of Krishna. Handsome Balaram ran down the hill. He was looking for the legendary Arjun trees. Where are they? In the meantime, Yashoda Mai was inconsolable. Only when the joyful Brijbasis entered the palace with Krishna was she able to compose herself enough to go to her apartment and lock herself in. Nand Baba wanted to purify his son from the day's misfortune and decided on a bath in the Yamuna. As they walked hand in hand to the river, Balaram caught up with them and embraced Krishna. He asked Krishna a barrage of questions. What is this new name you have? Damodar. Why did mother tie you up? Did you really pull down those trees? Krishna was reserved. Just when he needed his brother the most, he wasn't there. He felt abandoned and would not respond in his usual affable self. Balaram was taken aback by Krishna's sulky mood, but with a wink from Nanda Baba, told him to be patient. The three of them went to Rajghat, accompanied by singing Brijbasis and mantra-chanting Brahmins. After bathing and performing purificatory ceremonies in the Ghat, Krishna and Balaram distributed gifts to all those who were present. After this, they went back to the palace, wondering if there would be any dinner, remembering Krishna had by now missed several meals. Of course, dinner was ready. Rohini Devi reminded Yashoda Mai that her son had not eaten since morning, and even then, an unfinished meal, a little bit of milk from his mother. As sad and embarrassed as she was, Yashoda Mai immediately set about the task of organizing dinner. She guided her maidservants and friends through the palace kitchen and cooked herself. Meanwhile, Rohini Devi set the table in the grand dining hall, presuming there would be many guests for dinner. After the meal was prepared, Yashoda Mai again felt the weight of guilt and retired to her own chambers, which she locked. Even a moment seemed like a lifetime to Yashoda Mai, who was waiting until fate would again reunite her with her son Krishna. As dinner was ready, Nanda Baba and his sons, together with the guests, entered the dining hall and were happily discussing the day's events. In the meantime, Yashoda Mai remained seated on the edge of her bed, staring at the door, waiting for Krishna to open it. But he did not. After dinner, Nanda Baba took Krishna and Balaram to the cow shed to oversee the milking of the cows. There was especially a beautiful white cow which Nanda Baba would personally milk. Today, he showed the two boys how to milk this majestic cow. He filled a bucket of milk from her. then gave milk to the two boys and also to Krishna's friends who were with him. Today is Diwali, and there was to be an evening of festivities, but Nanda Baba decided it was wiser to resolve the conflict between mother and son rather than attend the festivities. They headed back to the palace. The ladies informed that Yashoda Mai had not eaten, nor was speaking to anyone, and was feeling very sad. She was, of course, sad for tying up Krishna, but her sorrow increased 1,000-fold by her son's neglect of her. Nand Baba embraced his son and, placing him on his lap, put the question to Krishna: "Dear boy, these ladies say that your mother is very sad. Will you go and appease her like a dutiful son?" Krishna looked up at his father and replied assertively, "No, I will not. From now on, I will always remain with you, father." So the ladies asked Krishna, "If you do not go to your mother, then whose breast will you suckle?" Krishna was ready with an answer. "I'm a big boy now. 2 years, 2 months. I will drink warm milk from the white monarch of my father's cow, just like I did today." So the ladies asked, "Then with whom will you play? Who can entertain you in so many ways in which only your mother can do?" Krishna said, "My father. I will play with my father. He is the empress of all gamesters, and I will play with Balaram as well." Krishna had forgiven Balaram because Balaram related to him that he was forced to go with Mother Rohini. And if he had stayed behind, Yashodamai would not have been able to tie him. He was, of course, overestimating his power in relation to Yashodamai's love for Krishna. There is no contest. So the ladies asked, "What about your brother's mother, Rohini Devi? Will you go to her?" "I will not go to her either. She abandoned me, as a result of which I was shackled all day." When Rohini Devi heard from Krishna, tears welled up in her eyes. She loved Krishna even more than Balaram. This is such an important point. Rohini loved Krishna more than Balaram. This is the beauty of the Supreme Lord. Searching for some way to uproot her stubbornness, she appealed to Krishna's love for his mother. "Oh, my son," Rohini says, "how can you be so heartless and cause your mother such pain? Dhruv Maharaj forgave her stepmother, as did Lord Ram. Why can you not find it in your heart to do so?" The authority of his father's support fueled Krishna's huff. Turning from Rohini to Nanda Baba, Krishna buried his face in father's loving arms. Nanda Baba embracing Krishna tightly, but he could sense that the boy still longed for the sanctuary of his mother's tender warmth and love. For Krishna, there was no embrace like that of Yashodamai. Even though he is certainly enjoying these rare, tender moments with his darling son, being free of any trace of envy, Nand Maharaj devised a plan to conjure up Krishna's suppressed affection for his mother. Hold Krishna at arm's length, holding him at arm's length, and in a tone of royal proclamation, Nanda Baba raised a slightly threatening hand and said, "Son, say the word, and I will give that woman a suitable thrashing. As the king of Braj, I cannot tolerate injustice. If a sin is perpetuated by any one of my own family, I must act on it, lodge a complaint, and then just see what I will do." That trick worked. Nanda Maharaj's strategy worked like a dream, like a charm. The very thought of anyone striking his mother obliterated Krishna's huff and brought tears to his eyes. Getting hold of Nanda Baba's threatening hand, Krishna shouted, "No, you cannot." As a perfect strategist, the monarch, Nanda Baba, unfolded the second phase of the scheme, appearing to ponder Yashodamai's past conduct and her present isolation. Nanda Baba said, "You are right, my son. Someone who put another in mortal damage should not be surprised if fate metes out the same punishment to them." The ladies of the court gasped. Krishna again called out, "No, that cannot be, never." Krishna was finally unable to tolerate separation from his mother, jumping off father's lap, which delighted Nand Baba. and frantically cried, "Where is my mother? I have to go there. Where is she?" Krishna ran to Rohini Devi for shelter, repeatedly crying, "Where is mother? Where is mother?" Rohini Devi comforted the boy and embraced him and reassuring him, "Do not fret. Come with me. I will take you to your mother." After what seemed like eternity, Yashoda Mai saw her door open cautiously and silently. Only Rohini Devi and Krishna were so bold. It was both. As soon as Krishna saw his mother, through the tears, Krishna ran, weeping to Yashodamai, climbing onto her lap and wrapping his arms around her neck. The aggregate of all happiness in the world, when multiplied 1,000,000 times, could not match a drop of the ecstasy that Yashodamai felt with Krishna in her arms. Similarly, if the aggregate of all the love in the world was multiplied 1,000,000 times, it could not match a drop of the love that Krishna felt from Yashodamai's embrace. Wow, extraordinary. Holding each other's heart to heart, they both felt complete for each other, for each was the half of the whole that was their union. Rohini reminds Yashodamai that Krishna must be still hungry, as he has missed several meals. When Yashodamai heard the words, "Will you not feed your son?" she immediately came to external consciousness, and like a dutiful mother, she pleased Krishna with her breast milk. Rohini had the dining table set by the maidservants in the privacy of Yashodamai's quarters and said to Yashodamai that, "You must dine with your son, for he has been picking at his dinner without your presence." Hearing these words, Yashodamai finally rose to her feet with Krishna still in her arms and took a seat at the table. Balaram also came rushing to Yashodamai, and the queen embraced him with her free arm. For each morsel that Krishna ate from her blessed hand, Yashodamai would eat an equal amount. Krishna would say, "Mother, eat more." Yashodamai would say, "If you eat more, I will match you." Krishna was won over. However, Yashodamai could hardly face her husband. She also feared the censure of the villagers. However, right now, those fears had to be put aside in order to serve Krishna. Krishna was tired. Balaram and Rohini took their leave, and Yashodamai lovingly held Krishna in her arms for some time. Then she placed him in the same bed from which he rose that morning. Krishna asked his mother to tell him a story. She told him the story of Dhruv, which Krishna, especially when Narada advised a little boy, and then gradually Krishna fell asleep. For 3 days, Yashodamai remained in her chambers, afraid to appear before the king. At the start of breakfast on the 4th day, Nanda Baba requested his son, "My boy, your mother is sulking and thus deprived us of her excellent services. Please go to her, and only in the way that you know how, ask her at once again. Grace us with her presence. We miss her terribly." Krishna immediately went to fetch Yashodamai. Soon after he emerged with her, Yashodamai's face was flushed with embarrassment. But Nanda Maharaj did not say anything negative to her, concluded that her pain in days of exile was sufficient punishment. He said, "O goddess, whose glories are sung throughout this land and beyond, O you who are maternal affection personified, although we have eaten excellent preparation in the last 3 days, without the touch of your lotus hand, even the best food has not satisfied us. No matter what Rohini Devi cooks your whimsical son, he will not eat because it has not been served by you. Please save him from wasting away. Thus save us all, who live only for him." Yashodamai's eyes welled with tears, her heart flooded with bliss, and the symptoms of ecstasy danced in every limb of her body. In the days following the reconciliation of the Divine Family, the Vrajabasis continued to give moral support to both Queen and her darling son. The ladies hungered to help heal the wounds caused to both Yashodamai and Krishna from recent events. They would be like honeybees attracted to Krishna and his irresistible sweetness. His smile features speech, everything indescribably attractive to the senses, mind, and heart. Everything that he was or did was a novel intoxicant, and every moment with Krishna was like a festival of indescribable joy. Just as he has completely mesmerized the Brajbasis, Krishna was completely mesmerized by them. Yashodamai ki jai. So this is the end of the Damodar Leela. We can stop there. Any questions, any comments, please?
Just a thought, Prabhuji,
Yes. Anyway.
that Nan Baba must have realized that Krishna would have done something that the way that Yasodama behaved like this, tying him up and then leaving him alone.
Right.
He must have realized that.
Yes, yes, yes. For sure, for sure. Yeah, definitely. But I think still he perhaps was thinking to tie him to a mortar and then leaving him alone
Yeah,
might have been a little too much of a punishment.
yeah, and leaving him out on his own.
Yeah.
But no, she did not leave him out there. He
No.
dragged himself out there, isn't it?
Yeah, and then also there were the cowherd, his
Yes.
friends were there, so she didn't leave him completely alone.
No,
Um,
no, she
and
left him there. She left him and said, "Don't move from here."
yeah, yeah, yeah. But she knew the friends were with him, right?
Yes.
The villagers had come.
Feeding him. They were feeding him as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh man.
That's right. He had this is the most fascinating Leela in so many different ways. Yeah. Because even the demigods, they were watching and they were, not just the demigods, the sages, even the nature, birds, they were all discussing this one Leela. And after it finished, they continued discussing it for like so long. And then, of course, the acharyas, they wrote so many books. It's just the most fascinating Leela. Yeah.
Thank you, Sharabush. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Not even. Okay. If there's nothing else, we can stop. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Damodar Leela ki jai.